I'm Lisa from Elman Scottish artist and fairy maker, and today we are back with another beginner friendly painting tutorial. And as you can probably tell, I've got a broken wrist, and yes, that is my dominant hand. So we're going to keep it super beginner friendly. We're going to paint on a small 20 by 20 canvas again. I haven't even bothered priming it this time. Normally would prime it with gesso, but that just seems a step too far for working one-handed with my left hand. I'm going to stick to a really limited colour palette, and I'm going to try and use some big brushes and some techniques like the ends of paint brushes and Q-tips and cotton swabs and stuff like that to make life easy. So let's get on with the painting. The colours that I'm using today are going to be some titanium white. Usually always got some of that somewhere in a painting. I've got my cobalt blue. I have got deep permanent green or hooker's green or sap green are good alternatives to this one as well. I am using a medium yellow, which is cadmium free. Just a slightly warmer orangey colour yellow is good. And tiny bit of raw sienna. You could probably do without this in the painting, but just adds a little bit of extra detail at the end. Okay, let's give this a go. Right, I'm just starting with a flat 1-inch brush. I've just got some plain water here, and the first thing I'm going to do is just attempt to slightly dampen the whole of this canvas here. It's just going to let me blend in the colours a bit better. So we're going to get a nice layer of water on there. Doesn't need to be too wet. If you've got a little misting bottle, that will also help. And then we're just going to go straight in with a bit of our blue, and you'll see the difference that having some water down here makes. So we're just going straight in with our blue, and we're going to create the top of a sky. So we're just going to go all the way along, nice horizontal lines, keeping it sweeping back and forth. This is the first time I have ever painted with my left hand. At least this is one of the simplest paintings that I teach in my workshops. So pretty certain I can manage something for you guys today. So we're going to start with the straight blue, and then we've still got some blue on our brush, and we're picking up a little bit of the white, and we're just going to go in to a bit of blending that white into that blue. And then I just want you to keep working with some blue and some white in nice stripes back and forward, down actually close to halfway down your canvas. And what I want to have is darker blue at the top and paler blue at the bottom. Once we've got that, I'll chat you through the next stage. Okay, so we've got a nice sky gradient. We have got our dark blue coming into our paler blue, and I've got little patches of darker bits here and there. It's kind of stripy, but that's nice because it's kind of looking a bit like maybe it's the clouds and stuff in the sky. So we're going to work on this bottom section now. And I'm going to bother cleaning out my brush because I'm going to go in with a darker colour, and it's going to be the green. And if it gets a bit of blue in it, I'm not that worried about it. So I'm going in with the straight dark green, which is the dark permanent green that I've got, but sap green and hooker's green are also good options for this. If you wanted this very bottom edge here, apologies, moving my canvas about. I don't have a second hand to hold it. If you wanted that bottom bit there to be a bit darker, you can go in with a bit of the blue and the green together. And when that dries, that's just going to give you a slightly darker green since we've mixed that blue in with it. And then we're going to go more of the green, and then we're going to bring in some of that yellow. So again, the same thing that we did with the sky, but we're doing it with the green and the yellow, and we want to aim to get to a very pale green, yellowy green up at the top. I might even add the tiniest touch of white into it by the time I got up there. So we're just building up again, working back and forth, working nice and horizontally across our canvas, and we're just building up until we get a gradient. Now that's why we wet the canvas first, having that tiny little bit of water on the canvas is helping make this gradient easier. And then we're gonna build up to having a horizon line as well. And don't worry, because we're adding details on top of this, so it doesn't matter how our horizon line looks at this stage. So I'm going to keep working on that and come back to you once this bottom grass layer is done. So basically, things closest to us are darker and stronger, they have more pigment about them, and then the further away they get hazier, paler, usually a little bit grayer as well. So that's what we're aiming with this grass. But I'll keep working on this and I'll come back to you when it's done. Okay, so we've got our sky, which is going from dark to light, and we have got our grass, which is going from dark to light in the opposite direction. I brought some of that vignette of the dark blue and green together just in a slight curve. I think that kind of gives the impression of a meadow and rolling hills and fields. Now, here is the trick. Here is how I am going to be able to create left-handed a beautiful flower meadow in this painting. I will attempt to use, I don't know if you guys can see how small that is, but I might attempt to use one of my tiny brushes. But if I'm struggling with the dexterity to control that, then I've also got the top end of my brush. I've got the handle of my brush that I can use, and I've got cotton swabs, cotton buds, Q-tips, whatever you like to call them. So we're going to use these predominantly to create our flowers. Now, the first flowers that we're going to create are really super far away and in the distance. So they are going to be very pale and very small. So I'm going to start with the end of the paintbrush just to show you how that works. So I'm going to grab some of the white and a little bit of the yellow, and we're going to mix that up, and I'm just going to use this guy to mix it until we get a very pale yellow color. It's going to be quite tricky because I'm mixing with the end of the brush, but hey, anything's tricky right now because I'm using my wrong hand. So there we go, mix it up as if it's a little palette knife, and woo, let's not get any brown on our painting. Right, so we're just going to start by doing loads and loads of tiny little pale white dots. Okay, now I'll continue on with this, but just so that you can see the effect, if I work in this small area with lots of white and a tiny bit yellow, and I'm doing just constantly dipping back into the paint, and then as I get closer to the front of the painting, to the foreground of the painting, I'm going to bring in more of that yellow so that I get a stronger yellow. And I'm just trying to create the impression of some really far away flowers. If it was a flower farm, they might be more in stripes. If it's just a flower meadow, they're going to be more random. So we're going to work in dots mostly until we get closer to the front. When I want those dots to be bigger, obviously I can look at other size paint brushes I've got, but I can also go in with my cotton swabs, and I can bring in Very light taps are going to give me small dots and random shapes, and then big taps are going to give me much bigger shapes. So I'm going to build up loads and loads of that, and then we're going to come back with extra details and things that we can add to make this look even more like a flower meadow. But I have to say, this is a very relaxing painting to do. Lots of nice gradient work at the beginning, and then you can just sit and relax and chill out to your heart's content and create loads and loads of little dots. So if I can manage this with my left hand, guys, then this is totally an easy one that you guys can get on board and have a go at yourselves. Right, well, let's see how long the left hand keeps going, and I'll be back soon. Okay, so as you can see, I've got very pale tiny dots along the horizon line, and then my dots are getting slightly darker and bigger as we come forward. I've even gone in with some straight white up here, and I've literally just been using the titanium white and the medium yellow, and I haven't used anything else. These darker ones down the front are just the straight yellow on its own. And I'm just going to show you that as we get closer to the front here, and I'm just using this yellow, I have switched from the end of my brush to actually a little tiny brush, but you can keep just using the handle of your brush if you want. As we get closer to here, I'm going to start dotting, just like printing my brush on, because I don't have any other control over it, so I'm just printing it flat. Probably my hand is in the way, so let me try it at a different angle. So I'm literally just using the shape of the paintbrush on its own to make a little print, which gives me kind of a petal shape. And then I'm just printing that round, and I can either do a full ring of petals to make a flower with a center, or I can do some petals that are just at the bottom and the center of the flower is pointing up. You can also just do little blobs and dabs of dots grouped together as well, just to give the impression of some different sized flowers. So I'm going to work adding some more of these. So again, just pressing the paintbrush onto the canvas to make a print, keep loading it up with paint. I'm just going round in a circle to get a flower, and then I'm just going to build that up until I feel like I've got enough big flowers along the bottom and getting smaller, and then the tinier dots on the back. And then we're going to come in with some of our raw sienna here, just to do a little dot in the middle, because we're going to make these kind of sunflowers, so they're going to have that brown dot in the middle. I might down the bottom edge here as well try mixing some of the yellow and a tiny touch of the brown, just to get a more golden color for the bottom flowers. But again, I'm just going to keep building up flowers. Once I've got that done, I'll come back to you about putting some centers in, and then I think we're just going to try and finish off this piece with a nice warm glowing sun in the top right hand corner. Okay guys, so I will fully admit that my wrist over here is getting sore. I've been at this for a little while now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it at that for me. You guys can add as many or as few flowers to this as you want. So I'm just going to go in, I think I'll use cotton bud, and I'm just going to go straight into the raw sienna just as it is, and I'm going to just tap in a little center to where I've created the flowers that need centers. And the ones that have their petals pointing down the way, we're just going to tap that in at the top. Hopefully you can see that. So we're just popping it in there as if the sunflowers are facing up and their petals are hanging down the way. So I'm going to do that with all of the big ones at the front, but you can also then go in again with something that will make a smaller mark for you. So the back of the paintbrush is quite good for this, and you can just really tiny, the lightest pressure, super tricky when you're using your wrong hand, and you can just tap in the tiniest little dots into the center of some of your bigger yellow blobs. I wouldn't go hugely far back. I wouldn't try and add brown dots to all of them, and I certainly wouldn't go into the tiny ones at the back here. Maybe kind of going to work up to slightly past halfway on this sort of bottom field here. But I'm going to continue with that just for a few more minutes, dotting in the odd bit of brown and making sure that all of my bigger flowers here have got their, that's another way to do it, is just to add lots of little dots instead of one big one with the cotton bud. So I'm just going to continue doing that for a couple of more minutes, and then I'm going to come back to you guys and show you a really super quick, easy way to add a nice warm hazy sun, because if it's not quick and easy, then I ain't going to be able to manage it with my left hand. So I'll keep adding a tiny bit more brown, and I will be back in a couple of minutes, guys. Okay, this should be fun. I have got myself a bottle stopper from like a gin bottle or something like that. Okay, I'm gonna find a way to balance this, and I'm gonna get flat paintbrush, just a small one, and I'm just gonna go in with, I've got some yellow still in that white, and I am going to attempt to just dab on. Obviously you guys can just hold it in one hand and paint with the other hand, and you can get a nice coating of paint onto your bottle. Obviously anything that's a round circle is going to do, maybe like the top of a thread reel or something. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit of that down here as well. Look at me having to improvise. Okay, now that I've got a whole bunch on that, I'm just going to lightly turn it in there, hopefully. Oh, look at that, that's good. That worked. Okay, so I've now got a nice coating of white and yellow paint, and I think I'm going to go for a sun up in this corner. So this is just a really simple way to get a basic circle shape. It's not going to be perfect, but it's a nice, easy option for you guys if you can't draw circles yourself. I'm just pushing down and I am twisting slightly, but trying to keep it in the one spot so that I can get the outline and print of that. That's all I need. Then I'm going to go in, I'm just going to use the same brush, and I'm going to nice and lightly, I'm not going to go too close to the edge because I don't have enough control to do that, but I'm going to nice and lightly fill that in. So that's just a mixture of the white and the yellow. also a really, really good technique if you're trying to do a moon, because you don't have to fill it in then. You can just leave it patchy and it looks like craters. So this is a technique we use a lot in my beginner workshops, just to give you a nice circle. Now, you could make that stronger yellow if you wanted in the middle, or you could go for a little bit of yellow more on one side. Doesn't need to be the whole way around. I quite like it quite pale on this one. Careful you don't pick up any blue, because the last thing you want is a green sun. So I'm going in with that. Obviously don't have a lot of control with my left hand. So I'm going to call that good enough for my basic circle. Now, there's a couple of techniques that you can do here. You can either wipe off nearly all of the paint from your brush and go in with a dry brush, or you can go in with very watery wet paint is the other way to do this. Let's see if I can get myself one-handed, if I can get a little cloth or a paper towel. I think because I don't have a lot of control right now, I want to dry brush this. So I'm literally wiping as much of the paint off of this brush as I can. I might have wiped too much off, but that's okay. So I'm literally, there's still the tiniest bit of paint on there, but my brush is pretty much dry. And what I'm going to do is, since the paint on the sun is still wet, I'm just going to do lots of quick circles around that edge just to make it a little bit hazy, okay? So this is the dry brush way to do this. You can also do this with some watered down paint as well, a little bit of water, but I don't feel like I've got enough control in my left hand to get that to happen. So we're just going to swirl that out to the size of a hazy sun that you want, and I'm just trying to do the lightest pressure as I get further away, just to blend it out a bit. And I think we're just going to have to call that good enough. Not my best sun haze, but I think we're going to call that done. I purposely kept the flowers up here much paler, just because I kind of thought at some point I'm going to add that little sun, and I want it as if the sun is lighting this flower meadow. So you could add little highlights to the tops of your flowers to show that the sun was hitting them. I don't have enough control and coordination to do that with my left hand. There are many, many other little details you could add to this. You could add in some little fine lines and start showing in stalks and leaves and things if you wanted to. But as a very basic, simple beginner painter, then that's you. We've just got a couple of gradients, lots of dots, and then a print for our sun. So hopefully you've enjoyed that as a really, really beginner friendly painting. Please like and subscribe, follow me for more. And I guess I'm going to be back with some more left-handed painting, some more really simple ones, until I get this recovered a bit. So see you in the next one, guys. Bye. Here we go, guys. I have completed my first ever left-handed painting. This is one of my beginner-friendly painting workshop paintings. It was all I could manage. My arm is actually really sore now, even though I wasn't using it. But it's done. I think it looks great. If I can manage this with my left hand, then even if you have never painted before, you guys can manage this too. So give it a go and write a message in the comments if you want to see more of my left-handed art. Bye for now.